Hollywood's unheralded hero is the casting director, the one responsible for bringing the characters in the script alive by matching them with their real-life counterparts. After all, a film is only as good as its actors, or as Robert Zemeckis once said, good directing is good writing and good casting. This is never more evident than in the case of ensemble films. Here are the most epic ensemble casts in movie history. Clocking in at 188 minutes running time, 206 for the director's cut, it's no wonder this 1991 Oliver Stone film about the events leading up to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy has such a lengthy cast, with names like Kevin Costner, Kevin Bacon, Tommy Lee Jones, Laurie Metcalf, and Gary Oldman as Lee Harvey Oswald. But even more interesting than the main cast are its supporting actors, such as Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, Joe Pesci, Brian Doyle Murray, and John Candy. While the 2017 remake of the Agatha Christie murder mystery classic boasts impressive star power with the likes of Kenneth Branagh, Johnny Depp, Penelope Cruz, Judi Dench, Willem Dafoe, and others, it still doesn't hold a candle to the cast of the 1974 Sidney Lumet version, which included Albert Finney, Lauren Bacall, Ingrid Bergman, Jacqueline Bisset, Sean Connery, Anthony Perkins, Vanessa Redgrave, and Michael York. Given how Heath Ledger stole the show with his twisted take on the Joker, it can be hard to remember just how good the cast of The Dark Knight was, with Christian Bale as Batman, Michael Caine as Alfred, Gary Oldman as James Gordon, Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent/Two-Face, Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel, and Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox, CEO of Wayne Enterprises. Ben Stiller, Jack Black, Jay Baruchel, Tom Cruise, Steve Coogan, Danny McBride, Nick Nolte, Bill Hader, and best of all Robert Downey Jr. as the Dude, playing a dude, disguised as another dude. Tropic Thunder is one of the best comedy casts ever assembled. Of all the Coen brothers casts, The Big Lebowski is perhaps the most Coen brothers-y, with frequent collaborators Jeff Bridges, John Goodman, Steve Buscemi, John Turturro, Peter Stormare, and John Polito. Only Frances McDormand and George Clooney are missing, as well as Julianne Moore, Sam Elliott, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and David Thewlis. The Magnificent Seven is a good way to describe the cast of this classic 1960 Western, starring Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, Robert Vaughn, James Coburn, and Eli Wallach as Calvera, the evil leader of a gang of Mexican bandits. The cast of the 2016 remake, led by Denzel Washington, isn't too shabby either, with Chris Pratt, Ethan Hawke, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Peter Sarsgaard. Movie 4-3 is one example of a film where its talented cast couldn't save it. This 2013 box office bomb is made up of 14 different storylines and stars A-list actors such as Elizabeth Banks, Kristen Bell, Halle Berry, Gerard Butler, Dennis Quaid, Richard Gere, Chris Pratt, Hugh Jackman, Emma Stone, and even Kate Winslet. Though it's technically considered a comedy, it may as well be part of the mystery genre, since it's anyone's guess as to why so many talented people agreed to be in it. Though it's now considered one of the quintessential casts of the 1990s, at the time of its release, many of those involved in Quentin Tarantino's sophomore effort weren't big box office draws. After early success with films like Saturday Night Fever, Grease, and Urban Cowboy, John Travolta's career was in a sharp downturn. Uma Thurman was still better known for her looks than her acting chops and had just been nominated for a Razzie for her role in Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. Bruce Willis was coming off a string of flops, including The Bonfire of the Vanities. And Samuel L. Jackson was a 45-year-old former stage actor best known for small roles in Spike Lee films. Of course, that would all change for them once the movie proved to be a financial and critical success. The Thin Red Line may have been known as 1998's other World War II epic, but in terms of cast, it takes the top spot over Saving Private Ryan. Actors in this Terrence Malick film include Sean Penn, Adrian Brody, George Clooney, John Cusack, Woody Harrelson, Nick Nolte, John C. Reilly, and John Travolta. Francis Ford Coppola's seminal 1972 Mafia movie stars Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, James Caan, Robert Duvall, Diane Keaton, and John Cazale. That it's hard to imagine the role of Michael Corleone being played by anyone else, but studio executives originally wanted a bigger name actor, like Jack Nicholson, Robert Redford, or Robert De Niro. who would go on to play a young Vito Corleone in The Godfather, Part 2, until Coppola convinced them to go with Pacino. No other filmmaker has had a bigger influence on Paul Thomas Anderson's career than Robert Altman. And like Altman, PTA likes to work with large ensemble casts, most notably in Magnolia and Boogie Nights, the latter of which features Hollywood heavyweights such as Burt Reynolds, William H. Macy, and Julianne Moore, along with relative newcomers Mark Wahlberg, John C. Reilly, Don Cheadle, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Heather Graham. Robert Altman's often overlooked classic The Player, about a Hollywood studio executive who kills an aspiring screenwriter, boasts quite possibly the most Oscar winners and nominees of any movie ever, including Tim Robbins, Whoopi Goldberg, Sidney Pollack, Susan Sarandon, Cher, and Julia Roberts, just to name a few. Though in fairness, many of them only appear in small cameo roles playing versions of themselves. But it still counts. All four of the main actors, Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, Amy Adams, and Jennifer Lawrence, were nominated for Academy Awards for their performances in David O. Russell's 70s crime drama American Hustle, which also featured Jeremy Renner. As the Marvel Cinematic Universe has grown over the years, so too has its cast, culminating in the final installment of the Avengers franchise, Endgame, where it seems like nearly half of Hollywood is accounted for, from Robert Downey Jr. to Chris Evans to Scarlett Johansson. In fact, it might be quicker to name those who aren't in the film. And somehow they managed to fit them all on one movie poster. Martin Scorsese has a knack for bringing out the best in his actors, and he had a lot to work with in the 2006 crime drama The Departed, with talent like Leonardo DiCaprio, Jack Nicholson, Matt Damon, Martin Sheen, Alec Baldwin, Vera Farmiga, and Mark Wahlberg, who was nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for his role as Staff Sergeant Dignam. Francis Ford Coppola's 1983 film The Outsiders, based on the S.E. Hinton novel, helped launch the careers of some of the biggest names in Hollywood, including Ralph Macchio, C. Thomas Howell, Tom Cruise, Matt Dillon, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, Patrick Swayze, and Diane Lane. What you may not know is that it also features uncredited appearances from Nicolas Cage, Flea of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and future Boston Bruin Cam Neely. With the likes of George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Andy Garcia, Julia Roberts, Bernie Mac, Casey Affleck, Don Cheadle, and others, Steven Soderbergh's take on the 1960 Rat Pack heist film has one of the coolest casts ever assembled. Future installments in the trilogy up the star power with the additions of Catherine Zeta-Jones and Al Pacino. Ridley Scott's 2001 war film about a 1993 U.S. military raid in Somalia Gone Wrong features so many big-name actors that you probably don't even remember them all, like Tom Hardy, Jeremy Piven, Hugh Dancy, Nikolai Coster-Waldau, Jamie Lannister, or Ty Burrell, in a decidedly different role from Modern Family's Phil Dunphy. Middle-earth has one of the biggest, and best, casts in movie history, with Elijah Wood, Ian McKellen, Orlando Bloom, Ian Holm, Sean Bean, Viggo Mortensen, and so many others. Fun fact, Russell Crowe was initially offered the role of Aragorn. Furthermore, more than 20,000 extras were used during filming of The Fellowship of the Ring. In fact, it's estimated that roughly 1 in 160 New Zealanders played a part in the movie's production. Adapted from David Mamet's Pulitzer Prize-winning play, this 1992 film about 4 desperate real estate salesmen relies heavily on the quality of its actors. Luckily, it had some of the best in the business, with Al Pacino, nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, Jack Lemmon, Ed Harris, Kevin Spacey, Alan Arkin, Jonathan Pryce, and of course Alec Baldwin, who delivers one of the most memorable monologues in cinematic history as sales trainer Blake, sent from corporate to motivate the salesman. Nearly every Wes Anderson cast could make this list, but let's stick with the best, the Royal Tenenbaums. Why is it the best? Because it includes Gene Hackman, in one of his quirkiest and best roles, as the patriarch of the eccentric Tenenbaum family, which also includes Angelica Houston, Luke Wilson, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Ben Stiller. And, of course, no Wes Anderson movie would be complete without Bill Murray, who has appeared in 8 of the acclaimed director's films. After the success of Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, it seems everyone wanted to be a part of the sequel. Aside from returning stars Will Ferrell, Paul Rudd, Steve Carell, David Koechner, and Christina Applegate, Kristen Wiig, Greg Kinnear, Megan Good, Harrison Ford, and James Marsden all join in on the fun, as well as countless other big-name celebrities who appear in a massive news anchor battle royale near the end of the film. The 1962 World War II film The Longest Day also has one of the longest lists of top-notch actors, including John Wayne, Henry Fonda, Robert Mitchum, Sean Connery, Richard Burton, and Rod Steiger. Not only that, but the film also used 5 different directors to help shoot the many battle scenes. Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg make clever use of their star-studded cast in this 2013 disaster comedy, where several actors play fictionalized versions of themselves as they deal with the aftermath of a biblical apocalypse that strikes during the middle of a party at James Franco's house in LA. You won't look at Michael Cera the same way again. A Bridge Too Far's credits read like a who's who of big-name actors from the 60s and 70s, with Dirk Bogarde, James Caan, Michael Caine, Sean Connery, Elliot Gould, Anthony Hopkins, Gene Hackman, Laurence Olivier, Ryan O'Neal, and Robert Redford. Though as some critics pointed out about the film, which at the time received mixed reviews and was considered somewhat controversial for depicting the flaws in the Allied campaign, the sheer number of actors didn't allow for much focus of attention on the plot.